Hi, welcome back, kindergarten. We're going to go over your third 6 weeks. We are here in Eduphoria looking at your third 6 weeks. Let's get into it. Our first third 6 weeks, and I have it set up for 20 days, which will take you through to Christmas. And the standards that we're looking at your unit is the winter celebrations. So I have given you several different things here. I want to kind of go over with you some of the rigor that we're looking for. When we're talking about placing events in chronological order and we're talking about the winter celebrations, you want to make sure that you're really talking about the fact that students should be able to place the winter holidays on the calendar. And I've put in some extra information here in your clarifying documents that I think should be helpful to you. We're asking about vocabulary, so you want to make sure that students should be able to use time words to describe when holidays take place or preparations for celebrations centered around holidays. So for example, a child should be able to say, "We played with a dreidel yesterday," or "Today we went shopping for Christmas presents." That's really something we want to see. In addition to that, I've talked about looking at similarities and differences among people. And so you want to kind of talk about and the different types of laws and religions and all that. So you're kind of looking for making sure that students can find similarities and differences in celebrations of faith. So you know which holiday uses candles to celebrate. What's exchanged for most of these faith celebrations? That would be gifts. You kind of want to talk about what things have in common, what they have a little bit different. But this would be a great place to discuss that. The next one talks about similarities and differences among people. So, and about music, clothing, and food. So you could say, you know, is music used in these winter celebrations? Yes. What are the different types of music you would hear if you were celebrating Christmas, if you were celebrating Hanukkah? And this would be a great opportunity for you as kindergarten teachers to talk possibly to your music teacher about seeing if they could put in some of these different types of songs. I know around the holidays that happens quite a bit, but making sure they have in possibly a Hanukkah song or something so that you can kind of clue this in all together. We also have describe and explain the importance of family customs and traditions. So you want to talk about the way that the families celebrate Christmas and the holidays and make sure that you're giving kids a chance to explain that. And this goes right with it too, and then giving them a chance to compare the different ways that they celebrate. And our suggestion was to kind of put it in Venn diagrams. You know, how many of you put up Christmas trees? Oh, you know, we have this, so-and-so puts up a Christmas tree, but so-and-so, you know, doesn't. So-and-so might have this for dinner, so-and-so might have this. But it's a way for us to kind of look at how we're all grouped. In your unit documents, I have here for you your unit overview, as always. And it's really about making sure that you understand that this 6 weeks, this unit I mean, we're looking for events that can be ordered. We're looking for holidays. We're looking about traditions. Talking about what the important winter holidays are in their community. All of these guiding questions are things that you can put on your board to talk about. It's the big idea. Why do people celebrate these holidays? What family traditions are used? How are we similar, different? When did these fall on the calendar? You know, talking about when we're even going to celebrate. And I have a few teacher suggestions in there. On our vocabulary list, you really want to get in the following words: after, before, calendar, celebrations, Christmas, customs, family. Remember all those things that are in here. Now, I do want to make a special note. I have Ramadan in here. Ramadan depends on what time it falls in the calendar year. This time, Ramadan already has taken place, but I've left it in here just because it might come up again. Since it does not fall into our winter holidays, you do not need to teach it at this point, but I do want to leave that up there for you. Resources. I've given you a couple suggested books: How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Polar Express, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Light the Candles is a Hanukkah book, a Kwanzaa celebration. I know that you can find these with your librarian, and I'm going to be working with librarians to put together a list, but this would be a great thing for you to do. Now, when you come back from our winter holidays, you're going to be talking about geography and winter, and that's a 12-day unit. And here are your standards. One, to identify the tools that aid in determining location. And so on this clarifying document that I've done for you, you're going to see that we're kind of looking once again at just what you would use. And there should be on this one, let's see, there should be an example of, for example, what is this? This is a GPS. You're just throughout the year trying to make sure that they understand, what tools aid you in determining location. I kind of feel like this teak is the Dora teak. Who do we ask for help when we don't know which way to go? The map. It's about maps, globes, but other types of things as well. You want to talk about physical characteristics, and these are the important ones that they need to know. And I've put a lot more detail in here on this time. So the landforms, you want to make sure that they understand mountains, valleys, and plains. For water, ocean, river, lake, stream, pond. For natural resources, oil, coal, rocks, minerals, trees. So here's some things that you can do, and I've put that as your sample assessments. And to landforms, look at a map of Texas and locate the plains. This is the most common landform in our community. Show them pictures of the Rocky Mountains to compare with the plains. They should be able to differentiate between a mountain and what a plain is. When you're looking at water, the Trinity River, the Rio Grande River, the Gulf of Mexico, Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. Show pictures of streams and ponds. Ask them if these waterways are located in their neighborhoods. Students should be able to identify on a map the difference between an ocean and a river. So that's really something you want to do. You might get for an assessment for them a picture of, a map, put a map in front of them and say, circle the river, now color the ocean blue. That could be a great way for them to see the difference between that. If you go on how human characteristics of that, we're talking about how does the weather and the geographic location change kind of what we wear, how we live, all those types of things. So here I put a sample assessment picture of some kids outside, and I wrote, how does weather and geography affect how we live? How would these kids' lives be different? How are these kids in this picture dressed differently than what you wear to school? Where do you think they are? You want to ask those types of questions. On this one, it talks about identifying basic human needs. And so what you'll want to do here is you'll want to talk about, what do we need in the winter to survive? Well, what does this boy need right here? Look at these two pictures. Which outfit is best for the winter time? It's obviously this one right here. But you want to make sure that the kids are able to do that. And, this would be a great place to take magazine pictures, have kids bring in magazine pictures possibly of people in warm clothing and talk about the difference. Talk about the needs and the wants. What are your needs in winter times and what might be wants? Your coat is going to be a need. Maybe skis would be a want. Snowboarding would be a want, but your coat's a need. So you want to make sure they talk about this. You also want to talk about this with this change based on where you live. The kids need to understand that here in Texas, it does not get as cold as it does other places. So, we don't need snow boots. They're nice to have, but we don't need them. If I lived in a colder place, I might have to have snow boots, and then they would become a need. And then finally on here, to explain how basic human needs can be met, such as through self-producing, purchasing, and trading. And so you can talk to them about where would you find things you need for the winter, and where in the community do you purchase what you need for the winter. That would be a great place for us to talk about the fact that you're purchasing things. Most things that we would need for the winter are not self-produced here, and we do not really trade. So that would be important to talk to them about where that is. But make sure you're using the vocabulary self-producing, purchasing, and trading. Very important. Once again, on unit documents, you'll see key concepts. You'll see under here that, these are some guiding questions that you can put up. What is a globe? What is a map? What is an ocean? What is a river? What are natural resources? How are they used to meet basic human needs? I know sometimes with kindergartners, it's hard to give them this type of language, but that's really the language that the state wants, so make sure you're hitting on that. And on vocabulary, these are the vocabulary terms they need to get used to. Basic needs, geography, globe, lake, landform, map, mountain, natural resources, shelter. That is that high-level vocabulary that we want our kids to get right from the beginning. Now, when you go on here, I've also given you a Scholastic lesson plan for the week. This is a lesson plan all based on the weather, and so you will be able to go on here and look at it. And it's a week of winter weather. It's similar to the same type of program that I gave you for Thanksgiving. So they talk about winter weather vocabulary. It has lessons for weather words, today's temperature, signs of the wind. You can use this as you want to, but I decided this would be a good thing to give to you in case it's something you're interested with. So I hope this helps you out, kindergarten. I'm very excited about your third 6 weeks. I hope you have a terrific third 6 weeks and enjoy the break that you get in between. If you have any questions, as you know, I'm always here to answer them. Thank you.